No, because then you're
I just
adding
thought
extra
the
time.
other way.
It says,
Very good.
we'd walk down about.
At this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Brian Geezy.
Present.
Cody Brudowski.
Present.
David Schmidt.
Here.
Brian Mahan.
Here.
And I am here.
For those who are able, let's stand, face the flag, remove cover, do the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome everybody here tonight. Thank you for taking time out of this beautiful summer evening to be here. Mr. Rashevsky, do we have a virtue card
We
for this
do.
evening?
Today's virtue is service. Service is giving to others, making a difference in their lives. You consider their needs as important as your own. Be helpful without waiting to be asked. Do every job with excellence. When you act with a spirit of service, you can change the world. You are practicing service when you want to make a difference in the world, look for opportunities to be of service to others, do thoughtful things to help your family and friends, work with enthusiasm, don't wait to be asked when something needs doing, do your part to care for the earth, recycle, reduce, reuse. Affirmation. I am a person of service. I have compassion for those who need help. I do my part to make a better world. Ooh, that was a good one.
That is a good one. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rashevsky. At this time, I'd like to read the Board of Education guidelines. That's good. With an open mind, we will establish an atmosphere that allows expression of all views, even when views are not in line with all members. We will work collaboratively with the district administrator by having open and honest conversations around district priorities. We will work collaboratively with all stakeholders to monitor key indicators so that equitable teaching and learning results in high achievement. We will work toward building a trusting environment where both students and staff can reach their full potential and celebrate successes in academics, the arts, and athletics. At this time, we are open to public comments. Do we have any public comments this evening? I don't think we got all the people here tonight are going to be doing a little part of our part of the evening. And so with that in mind, we're going to move on to showcasing schools and student learning. First on the agenda, we have CWSA update. Is anybody here representing CWSA? No. I want to apologize for not going to their meeting last night. I meant to as well, Monday night. But next, Wise Academy update. Do we have any?
No.
Okay. Okay. And we are now up to overarching results, and I'd like to turn it over to Terry. Terry's going to make a little statement before
Yes.
we have a presentation here. So
Awesome.
first of all, I want to welcome those that are here to present this. Will you introduce the group?
I'm going to have John do that.
Very good.
But yes, we're glad you're here. But you're the first group that comes under our new format. And so what we're talking about this month is OE5, which is Learning Environment Treatment of Students. And what that policy states is the district administrator shall establish and maintain a learning environment that is safe, respectful, and conducive to effective learning. So it further calls for the district administrator will maintain a climate that is characterized by support and encouragement for high student achievement, and then also assure that all confidential student information is properly used and protected. So what we're looking at tonight is our first presentation over the course of the year. The building principals have mapped out the year, and Diana has certainly been key into pulling this together. But throughout the whole year now, the board is going to hear from all three schools, on a regular basis around, connecting back to our policy. So our first group here tonight is from Humke, and I'm going to ask John to just introduce them and tell us what we're going to witness and hear about tonight.
Thank you, Terry. And
I'm going to begin again with who we have in the audience with me right now. Down in the end right now in the white sweater is Jackie Hines. She's our district reading specialist and our reading coach here at Humpkey Elementary. We have Liz Arcio in the middle. She is one of our kindergarten teachers, and seated next to her in the black and white is Angie Hillmeyer, and she's one of our second grade teachers. Together, these ladies are among several individuals who participate in our literacy action team, who are also on our PLC council. And our PLC council is doing work around curriculum. And this might get a little bit confusing because one of the things that we participate in is called the PCL network and the center. So there's PLC, Professional Learning Community, and PCL, Partnerships in Comprehensive Literacy. And that's what we're going to talk about here tonight a little bit and tell you about the journey that we've been on and what we've done and what lies ahead. With that being said, we're going to take a couple of minutes to tell you a little bit about what that is and how it relates to learning and what we're doing at Humpkey in regards to that. And then also later on, the teachers are just going to tell you what they are doing now and what they're working towards. So we're going to give you a little background on what PCL stands for again. And Jackie, why don't you go ahead and pass out those papers and I'll tell them a little bit about a couple of things with the network. PCL is, again, Partnerships in Comprehensive Literacy, and it is a partnership, and it's a partnership with other schools around the state who are subscribing to a theory in how literacy is taught. And I'm going to turn it over to Jackie to talk a little bit about the framework of what those components are to that model, and together we'll talk about what we've accomplished and again and where we're going. So with that being said, I'm gonna let Jackie tag team in on this next piece.
Perfect. I was afraid I wouldn't have enough paper, so I'm glad I've got plenty. So just to kind of give you an update on who I am, so I'm the literacy coach and reading specialist for 4K through 5. And so at Humpkey, we've been working on this model. This will be our 4th year in the model. And our first year was kind of just like figuring out what the model is, how it works. And so if you look at the sheet with the blue top, this model is a model that builds teacher understanding and teacher learning, and so it's a professional development model within learning how to create a curriculum that fits the kids that are sitting in front of you. And so the features of the model are, one, a framework for literacy. So if you look on the back of your paper, you've got this little diagram here. So all learning is based on language, and so one of the things that we needed to do from the get-go was to really build a strong language system so that our kids are building their vocabulary, having a voice in their learning, using academic language and building that understanding. And so through that we use books, picture books, language workshop books, really intentional books to teach not only how to be part of society, but also to build our social studies and science through that piece too. So we've really been diving into that language workshop. So my job is to help these teachers to pull that through in their classrooms and support them and give them feedback. And like John said, it's a journey. We're continually re-looking, revamping, reflecting, looking at the kids. Are they taking this stuff on? How are we going to change it? So that's been our journey the last few years, is really building that piece. And then this year we're really going to dive into the small group learning where kids are really, diving in, learning those intricate pieces of learning how to read, and also building our curriculum. So big job ahead is building that curriculum. And the power of that is that we are building a curriculum by teachers being involved in that. They have a say in what's there. They understand it. They know how to use it, know how to reflect on it. So it's better than just pulling a package in, because this way I'm involved and I know what it is. I know how to teach it. So with that, it's continual PD all the time, that we're always working on that piece. So if you look at the 10 features, one of them is model classrooms. So one of the things that I'm helping to do is build a system where teachers can come in and observe, like if somebody's really doing a really awesome job on language workshop. We can pull somebody in if somebody needs some support in that area. So, and then with that model classroom piece, it's like helps to sustain the model within your school. Coaching and mentoring, I've talked a little bit about that. Technology, we have lots of resources that we try and use and pull into that. Right now, we're developing that strong literacy plan with long-term goals and short-term goals. And then, again, professional learning community is huge. That's what we are all about all the time. And then accountability. So we're looking at, we've got, if you ever stop into the elementary room, in my room in 140, we have a data wall where we keep track of where kids are and continually look at assessments, look at what kids are doing, and then have meetings with those teachers to how are we going to move these kids? Because that's our goal, is to make everyone successful. And then, so that then leads into a system of interventions. And the interventions within the model mirror the classroom, so the kids aren't learning something different. They're learning what they need to be successful within that classroom. And then, again, high standards and spotlighting. So that's one of the other areas that we want to focus on. So, and this I just added to because this sheet kind of just is a mirror of what we're doing. It's like learning and then going back, relearning, or refocusing and relearning and refocusing all the time. So it's a system of plan, do, review, and change, and keep coming back and building our system stronger. So that's it in a nutshell.
Well, thank you. And so that's kind of an overview of what the model is, these 10 components, again, listed right here, what the pieces are. And that's kind of technical, and I don't expect you to understand or know all that, but that's just an overview of what that is. But again, one of those pieces, again, that what Jackie had talked about is the need for ongoing professional development, and what it requires is our teachers to be thinking about what they're teaching and then owning that. So with that, I'm going to ask Angie and Liz to just jump in and talk about some of the things that we've been working on as a literacy team in relationship to the model, and also probably as a PLC council.
Okay, so we have spent the last probably year and a half, I would say, working on the language workshop component of the PCL model. And this year we're going to start integrating more of the reading workshop portion. So we've actually been doing all of it, but really focused on this. And now we're going to bring in this next piece and give it more attention and refine and retune. And so through that process, we've had lots of other opportunities to reflect on ourselves, on our teaching, on our curriculum, on the kids. And I would have to say, for me, the biggest take is that it's become more intentional, everything we do. There's a reason why we do it. We look at it, we analyze it, we assess it, and how do I want to, it's like we're constantly unpacking those standards, and this is where we want the kids to know, how are we going to reach that goal, and kind of doing that backward process to get there, which is something that we're working on with our curriculum pieces right now as well. So some of the things that I've noticed in Language Workshop is not only am I becoming more intentional in what I choose and how I present it, but also my students, even at a 5-year-old level, are becoming more involved and taking a little more ownership for their learning, which, if you've ever been in a kindergarten room, is really hard, and it can be very chaotic sometimes, but even at that level, they're starting to use some of that academic language. They're using words like fiction and nonfiction. They're going back and saying, hey, we know that vocabulary word, or I know what that means, So they're really starting to remember those things and bring in those pieces. They're talking more. We do turn and talk, which, involves a lot of training to get them there, but they do actually now, they will turn to their partner and they will talk about whatever question I pose to them or whatever I want them to think about and discuss with their partner. And as I walk around, they're actually discussing the pieces of the story, or what the character was feeling, or why they thought, that, or how could I change the ending, or whatever it was that was posed to them. So I would have to say that using the PCL model is us being more intentional and that we are tailoring the curriculum to the students that we have every year and not the child to the curriculum. And I think that's the biggest piece in it, one of the most important things, because each year they are different. And I just can't take a cookie cutter and say this is what you're gonna learn, because might not be what they need this particular year. So it's given me the opportunity after 20 years just to become a little more intentional in what I'm doing and looking deeper at those students and what they're doing and taking the data from the data wall and really saying, okay, when I do my small group, this is what I need to focus on with this kid and this is what I need to focus on with these two. And so.
Thank you, Liz.
Awesome.
I agree with a lot of what Liz said. Our turn and talk is very intentional within our classroom to give them the ability to have their voice being heard among their peers is awesome. It's not just one student speaking all the time, it's everybody with input and having somebody on the receiving end of that too. Another big thing that we do with our language workshop model is anchor charts that are collaboratively made and making them more in the front line of the kids too, so that they're able to see everything that we are learning and reference back to it. So we've been trying to take those anchor charts and now put them back into their thoughtful logs so they can refer back to them for the purpose of reading and doing different strategies that we have been learning as a whole group too. So those things have really added to their learning in language workshop. Jackie, her coaching is invaluable to us with her coming into our classrooms, and she sees what we do and then she helps us learn as a staff and grow too, just being able to come in and sit next to us while we teach a lesson or helping us reach the next level of our teaching to be able to grow and develop those lessons deeper and deeper has been extremely valuable to us too. So those things have been very helpful to us as we grow.
Right. And as the PLC representative for our grade level, we've had a lot of support from Jackie and John both as far as giving us the guidance we need to take back to our team to be able to say to them, okay, this is what we need to do, this is how we need to do it, what are we going to do, how are we going to unpack this, how are we going to create this together as a team. And so having that support system too has really helped that piece where we all can be that much more intentional in what we're doing and why we're doing it.
And then with pairing our language workshop and our integrated workshop together, our science and social studies, is giving us an avenue to teach science and social studies in a broader spectrum. So we're able to use read alouds to teach science and social studies in a different way so that we're able to hit some of those science and social studies standards through reading too. So it's a really nice way of pairing both things in our curriculum to give better depth of knowledge to our kids, which has been awesome.
Thank you, ladies. Questions by members of the board or anyone else?
I think, at the grade, at the end there, you talked about the PLC. You're the PLC leaders for your grade levels. And you work together as a team and then bring that back to your grade levels. But you also take information from your peers back to the PLC?
Yes, we do.
And I think that communication is so important too, so that feedback, and I think it's coming back through the data wall and other things like that. I'm gonna come in and check out that wall. I love it.
It's not up yet. but
I was able to
this time
witness,
we'll get it.
I was able to witness a discussion of a grade team working together, and they had all the kids on a chart, and they knew individually where each one was and what focus as a grade group they needed to work on. Move that, and I was so impressed by that. And just to have that common approach, and something that it's going to be common between kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade. There's going to be, it's not going to be, we're going to have to relearn how we learn each year to a certain. I think that's so important. But I wanted to thank you very much for just taking the time to come out this evening and present on this. And John, thank you for putting the team together. Any other questions, guys?
Well, one thing I have, and just as I was listening to you, I like the system. I love it. I've seen some of this other stuff. But then the one thing that I thought of is, do you encourage the kids to really encourage them to go home and read to their parents and have their parents read to them? Is that part of it?
Oh, yeah. Reading nightly is
Okay,
push.
good. I just because I didn't see that on here anywhere.
Not just to the kids, but also we communicate that daily to
Right.
the parents. There's a reading bag or something that goes
Good.
home every
Good.
day. You know, there's newsletters that go home every week that talk
Because,
about reading, and it's
you know,
constant.
I always thought, if it's important to the parent to read, it'll be more important to the child. And I was just wondering, because I didn't see that on the 10 systems, and so I wrote number 11 down on mine.
He'll be sending you an email.
To add it on to the, okay, thanks.
Yeah.
And we can actually count this as number 10, the spotlighting, right? This is a spotlighting opportunity, so thank you, I look
Yeah.
forward to it. That's a neat program. Anything else?
Thank you very much.
Well, I'd like to thank you for the first team to go on this meeting.
Yes.
So you're very brave, very brave. And Mr. Strain, I want to thank you for bringing this to the board. And thank you for taking time out of your evenings to be here tonight. And this kind of information is what we as a board need to hear about and need to understand. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we
ladies.
welcome you to come into our rooms and
Oh, boy,
watch the
There
model
we
in
go.
action.
I can't wait to see those. I can't wait.
Don't feel like you have to stay the night, but you're welcome to. But thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, what's that?
With you?
With you. It's all Lynn's fault.
You're gonna have to go to school with your daughter. and figure things out. At this time, communicating with the board, we're gonna start with Brian, but I also wanted to recognize that Miss Lee Kirsch's presence here this evening. And is this your
Yes.
first meeting, official meeting with us? As a,
Think so.
well, that's to be celebrated. I'd like to recognize Miss Eleanor Lee Parrish. She's our student representative from the school board student representative from the high school. And I'm pleased that you're here. I'm looking forward to your presence during the year. I don't know if we're gonna put you on the spot tonight, but generally with communicating with the board is where we have a little spot for our student representatives to talk a little bit about what might be going on. It might be too early, school hasn't started yet. But,
She's ready. Thanks for it.
we really, we want you to challenge us and I'm looking forward to the year with you, so. I'm not looking forward to hearing Mr. Girl talk right now.
Oh, she's got something she wants to
Oh,
share.
let's start off with
She
Eleanor.
said she was ready.
You're not ready for what Brian's got to share.
We'll let him pull himself together while she's.
So the papermaker pillars, I'm the president of student council this year, so that's exciting for me to take on. And the first business that we had this year was that before the school year starts, to get the papermaker pillars, which are the high schools, our values in the school, to put them on the pillars in the downstairs level of the high school. So that's in effect this week. We've been painting yesterday and today. We'll continue tomorrow. But so just that, and then we are in process of planning homecoming, getting all of that sorted out. And also, this is Mr. Birch's first year helping the student council with everything. So I'm just helping him get into our rhythm, and hopefully also this year we'll do more than we have in past years. So trying to get a monthly plan of this is what we want to accomplish this month. Comparing it to other schools and seeing what they are doing, and then also implementing something new in our school too.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
And you can use this as, the time here as an opportunity to spread the word, about what's going on, and we welcome that. We look forward to that. Congratulations, Mr. Fair. Thank you.
Are you sure you want
I'm
to hear
ready.
I don't know.
I'd like you to
Come back to follow.
I know.
I'd like to turn the floor to Mr. Brian Girl,
All right.
Director of Student Services.
So I'm going to share a little bit of information from a different hat that I wear. So I'm not going to be talking to the special education side tonight, but more to the Title VI side of things, because we receive funds through the Native American Education Grant. And at the beginning of the school year, we do a few different events to bring the conversation of cultural responsiveness aware to teachers, and then two, to provide supports to our students to make sure they're ready to start their school year. So the first flyer I'm gonna send around for you to see, so this Friday, actually from 2 to 7, out at the Nekoosa Youth and Learning Center, we put together a back to school bash for students to get supplies, so they just enter the school year feeling good, have everything that they need. So that way they just know, yep, I have everything I need to enter school and be successful. So if you would like to come out and just see, it's, we work in collaboration with Nekoosa, who's the center director out there. We've been doing this now for 3 years. Every year we get better. There's still always a few glitches, but we're getting better and better, and families are coming out to give school supplies for their students. So this is a sponsored event through our Title VI funds. So
Fantastic.
the second event that I'm gonna talk to you about, Terry, Keith, and myself have gone through what's called SEED, which is Seeking Educational Equity and Diversity. Oh, and Brian and Pat, that's right, have gone through it as well. And one thing that we do, this is also an opportunity that we invite staff to come contribute and be a part of. So it meets once a month for 3 hours, and we invite staff, but this is also open to community members, where we start talking, having a conversation about cultural responsiveness within schools, but also within our community and ourselves. So it covers an array of topics throughout the year that you will talk about: gender, race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, poverty, and all these different areas, and how to respond to it within the schools and classrooms, but also within the community. So it's a great opportunity, and I invite you as the board, if you have time. It meets once a month, like I said, for 3 hours, and it's great conversation, great topics, and led by two very knowledgeable people, because Michelle Cloud from The Nation leads it, as well as Bethany Redbird, who was part of our group. She is now a trained facilitator of SEED. So
whose name can we write down from the board to join SEED this year?
I'm gonna consider it, you know, it's an obligation. I've been through it
Yes.
once, but it is worth going through twice. It is important to note that once you make the commitment, one needs to follow through on it.
Yep.
And that,
And they do have a good meal.
they do
each
have a
month.
good meal, and
And the time goes fast.
the time does go by fast. The hardest part is just getting the energy to go there
Yep,
at time. But
because
I
it's
would-
after work hours for 3 hours.
Yeah, but it is a good, you know, and generally, the group is as good as the people that are there. And the more people that we get in there, the better group we have.
Yep.
So I would highly encourage it, and I will consider it myself. I just gotta look at my time commitments, but.
And our goal is to get community members as well. So if you would go out and try to help us get at least, I mean, we'd like to have at least 5 people from Nekoosa. Because Port Edwards is there, and last year there was a big Rapids group. The year we did it, there was a bigger Nekoosa group. Port Edwards has a few, I think, mixed in. But if we could get 5 people, they do give up their time and come over here. I think it's part of their responsibilities with the nation. So if you could help us do that, that would be great. So, and the public needs to know too.
Yeah.
And
And
if anybody requires further information, they can contact.
they can contact myself. And then too, if you want to reach out to Terry, Keith as
Okay.
well, because we've been through it and we can give them further information.
I guess I'll offer myself up as well.
Yeah,
If anybody have any questions,
Yeah.
please feel free to contact me.
And the last event we do as part of Title VI, so Thursday actually, our new teaching staff spend a day and they go out for a tour out at Black River Falls to just learn a little bit about kinship and understand that we have students coming from that are of Ho-Chunk descent, and just to understand the history of the area, how the family system works and things of that nature, and then talk a little bit about cultural responsiveness within their classrooms and things they can do to foster that as they teach students. So they have a day where they come up, and a few board members have been on that tour as well. And if you have time Thursday and would like to join some of our new teachers, if you haven't gone yet, the bus leaves here at 8 a.m. Thursday morning, and you'll get back about 4 p.m. But it's a way just to learn a little bit about some of the students that we have here in Nekoosa and the history of the area. So,
I went on a tour and it's very impressive. They tell you a lot of stuff about the Ho-Chunk Nation and
yep,
different things. Very impressive.
yep. A lot of information, but it's a great day. Yep.
Yeah.
So that's just another hat that I wear, and that's some of the organizing, just to welcome new teachers, get students off to a good start, and then continue our education. So,
Thank you. Thank you very much, Brian. It wasn't as bad as I thought. Yeah, it was okay.
Wait for Lynn's though.
I know.
she's got the good news.
You got, yeah, good news, yes, indeed. Miss Lynn Nader, business manager, the floor is yours.
Yep, I just want to talk a little bit about the audit. Our auditors arrived at the end of July, and they plan on coming back for a day on Monday, just to finish up. These were new auditors, so there were new procedures and things that they looked at were a little new. I kind of told them what I thought about their little questionnaires that they sent out that were ridiculous, and it was funny because when I told them that their questionnaires are really dumb, that they said, well, that's not the first time we've heard that. And it's like, okay. So we did get a little ding. So I was so focused on one area of this district, usually special education is where they really dig into. So I made sure everybody that we were being aided on was licensed, and I really spent a lot of time in that area. And then they looked at transportation. And so what I did for transportation, we started a new program with Safeway. It's called Links, and it automatically creates the report to report how many students actually rode the bus so you can get categorical aid. It has to be only regular education students. It can't be special education students. So when I asked for the report, I said, I just want regular ed. So she sent me the report. I didn't check it. It included special ed, and I reported special ed students, so we got dinged on that, which means that we'll have to give some money back, which is not a lot of money, but it's the point that I missed it, that hits it right in my heart. So we did get a ding, and since it's a state program, there'll be some corrective actions that I have to put in place for the rest of the year, so it's additional work, and it's on me, I understand that, but I'll be darned if I'm gonna miss that again. So just be prepared for that finding in the audit report. So as the audit wound down, it appeared that we had an opportunity to transfer $200,000 into Fund 46. Now, if you remember back in 2014-15, I believe, we opened Fund 46 to save money for improvements to the school district. At the time, we were only allowed to put $100 in, but according to the rules of Fund 46, you had to open the account, and it has to be open for 5 years before you can spend it. So we wanted to get that account opened right away, so when we needed the money and we were able to put more money into this Fund 46, we had the ability to put it in and maybe to withdraw it then the very next year. So next year is our year 5. So we have met our 5-year requirement in regards to Fund 46. So after that transfer into Fund 46, we were in the red by $1,000. So as I analyzed what, because we were expecting over a $200,000 deficit. So as I was analyzing the revenues and expenses, what came to light was the state revenue. So the state revenue I budgeted and what we actually received was a difference of $333,000. A big portion of that is our SAGE, or what is that called? AGR?
AGR,
Which is?
Achievement Gap Reduction.
Thank you. So when I researched that a little bit, I thought, well, how am I ever going to predict that revenue accurately? So how is AGR state aid calculated? requires the state to determine the number of low-income pupils enrolled in each participating grade, 5-year-old kindergarten through grade 3 in AGR schools. So that's at the state level. The statewide appropriation is then divided by the total number of low-income pupils, which equals a per pupil allocation, and then that is multiplied by the number of low-income pupils in your school. You can't predict that. There is no way you can predict that. So I budgeted $293,000 in 18-19, and we received $469,000. The reason I budgeted $293 is because it was very similar to what we received the prior year. And that's usually what I have to go on, is prior year revenues, especially when it's being calculated at the state level. So obviously I was off. I will definitely budget more for AGR or SAGE aid. Another difference was special education. We typically, what we have to do according to state statute, is special education cannot run in the red. It can't have a negative balance. That's Fund 27. So at the end of the year, you look to see what Fund 27 is. You look to see what type of, transfer needs to be done from general fund into Fund 27 to make it zero. So I was expecting a transfer of 1.3 million, and we transferred 1.2 million. So there was a little bit of a difference there, about $100,000. So as I researched it, it looks like that, salaries and fringes went down. And thanks to Brian, because our MOE, our maintenance of effort that we have to meet on an annual basis, is basically saying you cannot skimp out on special education students. You have to spend basically the same amount that you spent last year unless you have exceptions. And exceptions mean maybe a high-cost student left the district and you were able to decrease staffing. And we have to report that into their system. So Brian has done a phenomenal job of really looking at that and lowering our maintenance of effort on an annual basis. So when I see that the transfer was lower by $100,000, it means that Brian's doing his job to be more efficient. So thank you, Brian.
Sure, Brian.
It's a team. It's a team.
So that's the two big areas where the budget was kind of skewed was in state revenues and in special education transfer. Now I'm starting to work on the budget now because I really want to, because in light of the state budget, biennium budget, and the money that has been allocated to schools, it's going to be interesting to see how we're going to end up. So I'm hoping to have a report to you very soon on that. I'm working with Terry to create our budget, and we're going to have it a lot sooner than it has been in the past. At least an estimate, so we know exactly, what we're looking at.
Well,
Thank you.
congratulations on the audit. I thought you'd get thing for my visit. I was called to talk for a little bit, and I was pretty scared. Now I had to be here for 10 minutes. I can't imagine 4 days, 5 days. We were forecasting a deficit. Budgeted, we had that monies that we were able to put into Fund 46.
Yeah.
Fund 46 can only be spent on capital improvements. As Lynn mentioned, there were additional state revenues and some other changes, but we also got to remember the amount of time that was invested in some of the positions that were reduced or not replaced in the last years to get us to that point. We're still in a very difficult situation. We, as a district, have strategic goals and plans that we need to focus on to get to where we're going to be. And and the differences between the budgeted and where it came out. When I first looked at that, I was kind of like, oh my God, how can it be? But when I looked at the percentage overall of the budget, it was so small.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't predict what you don't know.
Right.
And so don't beat yourself up for that. And really what we're looking at there is we can't bet on what we don't know. And that's where the differences were. And again, when you look at the percentage of our overall budget, and I think it should be a good sign to the community and to the board and generally to the administration, the decision to put that money into Fund 46. Capital improvements are those things that, such as the upkeep of athletic fields or roofs or things that capital improvements. And there was even a discussion or a talk that maybe we should consider budgeting, putting monies in the Fund 46 on an annual basis to plan for some of these things that kind of got away from us. And so I think we need to celebrate that, and for our stakeholders to understand that $246,000, correct?
215.
215,000. We're able to go into that Fund 46 is really huge for our stakeholders and should show a commitment to our stakeholders of what we value for the future. Now, again, we don't want to just, we can't say things are okay. We're not where we need to be. And we don't know what the state's going to do. There are unknowns in the future. So we have to be comfortable with working in the unknowns. But with what we do know, we still have some dire predictions for where we're going as a district financially. And that's, I can't say, when I say that, it might sound like it's poor performance but it's not due to anybody's performance. In fact, it's due to some excellent performance in planning about identifying those needs that we have as a district, where we're looking at those things that we need for a strategic plan. I guess those are my comments on that budget aspect. Is there anything else that any other board members would like to add?
I agree with everything you said. So.
I just have a question for Lynn. You said that in previous years, you just went off of what previous years were.
Mm-hmm.
How close were you on those other previous years?
Pretty darn close.
Pretty darn close.
Yeah.
So, but going up, you could just as well have been off the other way.
Yeah, and that's scarier.
And that's the scarier aspect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anything else that you wanted to
Nope.
talk about?
I think I'm good.
Congratulations on the audit, and don't.
Ding.
I know.
Thank you for all the work you do.
Thank you for the investment of all the time and staff. Thank you for that. And with the new audit firm, there's a lot of change.
Yeah.
Who got that funny question there? Just staff or?
Everybody in the business office.
Oh,
and
boy. Good.
we were spending like an hour on them. I'm like, what? Finally, I just called him and says, you know what? If you want to talk to me, but I'm not writing anything up anymore.
Thank you very much for that update. And we got a lot of work to do on the financial side between now and October, and I wish you luck in that.
Us luck.
Us luck. Next up, we have employee handbook. Terry.
Yeah, so every year we do a review of the handbook, and that's exactly what we've done, is reviewed. We don't have any additions or changes, and that can be found out on the website.
Yep.
So we just wanted to make sure that we brought it forward, and that's part of our calendar.
Yep, and this was provided to the board electronically, and again, it's just informational only, no changes this year, correct?
Yep.
But there's, some of the names need to be changed, but I look at that.
Which names?
Thought I had the wrong building principles and I don't know what page that's on.
Oh, okay.
Page 3, page 5, actually.
Yeah, you're right.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Too fast, too strong.
See it? Brian's the only one that read it.
Okay.
Mark him down for an A.
You just opened it up about 10 minutes ago.
Well, I caught
Well.
it, didn't I?
I didn't, so.
We'll make that change.
Thank you. That brings us to policy governance. Two of these are relatively straightforward. I'd like to cover those first. B/SR3, staff accountability. I'm going to read the interpretation of staff accountability, Terry.
Sure. What does that be, what?
BSR3.
Okay, yes, I'll read the correct one. The district administrator is the board's sole link to district operations. The district administrator has exclusive authority over staff and has the exclusive right to delegate that authority. Staff are accountable only to the district administrator and their prospective supervisors as determined by the district administrator. Accordingly, the board will never give instructions or direction to any staff.
Just the interpretation.
Oh. That's what you got then.
Oh, you missed it. Interpretation. I interpret this to mean that the board is only accountable for the district administrator. All staff conduct and district operations are accountable to the district administrator.
Thank you. It's not in my handbook.
Oh,
You've got the updated version.
you gotta get a new book.
I think so.
This is a pretty straightforward policy. We've done a very good job as a board of working through the district administrator. This was a noted strength in last year. Previous boards, we're talking 8, 9 years ago, and Mr. Schmidt could probably know more than I do. We didn't always follow this accordingly, and we sometimes had building administrators answering to board members. And that does not create a healthy environment. Terry, you're the boss. You're also responsible if they get in trouble.
Right.
Yeah. And I think, this was sent out to all board members. There were no findings. Of the 5 responses, there were no violations noted. I'd like to call for a motion to approve the SR3 staff accountability as presented.
So moved. Second.
GP-3 governing style.
You want me to try it again?
Well, let me try it first.
We didn't vote.
Are we gonna vote on this?
Oh, I should say, we have a first and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Glad you're with us, Brian.
It's 2 for you tonight.
He's on tonight.
I'm off. GP-3 governing style, interpretation.
You do treatment, so first, or do you need that one?
What's that?
He's working on order. You're working on order, that's
I'm skipping because I want to get this done.
Oh, okay.
The board will cultivate a sense of group responsibility, working in partnership with the district administrators, staff, students, parents, and community. The board will be responsible for excellence in governing, using individual board members' talents and expertise to enhance the board entity while preserving the board's collective judgments and values. The board will hold itself accountable for continuous governance excellence, applying a high level of collective self-discipline in attendance at and preparation for meetings, observing policy-making principles, demonstrating respect for board, staff, and constituent roles, engaging in capacity building for excellence in governing, and conducting effective, efficient meetings. The board will conduct its business at meetings using the parliamentary rules detailed in Robert's Rules of Order for small boards. The board will direct and control and inspire district operations and results through the implementation of carefully written policies. The board's focus will be on the intended long-term benefits for students rather than on the means for attaining those benefits. And I'm going to end right there. Again, this board has done just an excellent job. We've noted in the past that our responsibility for professional improvement, that lies on us as well. We're going to be attending a Thursday meeting coming up here in the near future. And Mr. Schmidt, you've probably been the most diligent at, going to some of the training sessions. But I think we as a board need to commit. I would like each of us to try to personally commit to getting to at least one training session in the next 12 months, okay? Carrie's got a handout of, no, that's all it's.
Did you all get a copy of this?
Me?
Yeah, in Rothschild?
Yeah,
So will you let Diana know and then she'll,
yeah, talk to her about
okay.
it.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanna go to.
So it's the 24th. Did you get a copy?
It's at home. I got it.
It's October already.
Any discussion items? on this?
October 24th, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's usually a Thursday night.
Yeah.
Thursday night, yeah. There were no violations noted. Is there any discussion items regarding this policy? Carrie, any comments?
No, I'm good.
At this time, I'd like to call for a motion to approve GP-3 governing style as presented.
Second.
We have a first and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Consent agenda, I gotta go back. Operational expectations, always
All right.
carry. Treatment of stakeholders. This is a big policy. Carrie, if you wanna cover some of the highlights, I think as we kind of brought out in Thursday's workshop, the strengths we found last year were that there was a plan being written and implemented, and there was some suggestions for improvements with regards to communication. With that in mind, Terry, why don't you highlight what we've done for this year for
Well,
support
sure.
OE3?
Yeah, and one of the communication pieces too that we just talked about tonight was really looking at those overarching goals, right? And we had a presentation tonight, but in this work, the interpretation is the district administrator will manage information in such ways that confidential information is protected, effectively handle complaints, and maintain a district culture that values individual differences of opinion, reasonably includes people in decisions that affect them, provides open and honest communication and written interpersonal interaction, focuses on common achievement of the board's results policies, and maintains an open, responsive, and welcoming environment. So as part of that, we look at culture surveys within the district. So we're looking at our parents' perspective on what they see happening in the district. We look at our staff and what they see happening in the district. And certainly we've highlighted in each building is working with those survey results and really trying to make improvements, you know, at the building level, which enhance moves up to the district level. So certainly, and we also do a survey with our students to get their perspective on how we're doing as far as creating that culture. So certainly we've got some ups and downs. We make, I think overall we're making some gains, but we continue to, you know, look at the strengths and weaknesses and then make decisions moving forward. So are there any principals that would like to share any of the work that you're doing around taking the survey results and making changes at your buildings?
Well, I can show you a little bit about what we're going to be doing, I guess, at this point right now. One of the things that we've been implementing is kind of a data progress monitoring around some key data points, and one of those data points is this survey. And so actually that occurs on Thursday, where we sit down as members of our building leadership team come together and spend time analyzing and reflecting on that process and design action points to improve in those specific areas. That includes, you know, communication and just specific work.
I just echo that in the sense that we're using it as, you know, as we get the survey results, we identify, okay, where's our strengths, where's our weaknesses? We share that with our team, and then we also have a building leadership team, and then it's a question of, okay, why do you think we're strong here? Where do you think we need to do this? And, you know, just it shines a light on a process that's working or not, and then it's at that point we have to figure out root causes and sort of dig into that. So, useful tool.
Yep.
Who's the survey geared to? Who's responding to it? Just teachers or community members?
So we've got a parent survey that goes out to our parents and they give them their perspective. We've got a survey that goes out to our staff and then they give us feedback, and then is it 612, the student survey? That goes out in Gallup. We work with Gallup on the Q12, which is the
So you're getting quite a wide range
step,
of
right.
information.
And you know, that stuff that's presented here in some of the parts. And the one thing that we talked about last Thursday was how many people, participation rates for the surveys. And we understand that, you know, it's hard to really force people to take surveys. The only people that would be forced to do it were the students, right? You know, like that feeling.
Even there, it's not.
Right? What's that?
We don't want to hear that, Mr.
I said,
Johnson.
even there, it's not. You can't.
I know, we can't
force.
force.
You can
There
force
are
them.
opportunities, there's strong, yep. But really, we want to thank those folks that take the time to give us their viewpoints, because we really take this data, and I say we, I mean the building managers, Jerry, take this data, and this is from parents, from the students, from the staff. And this is a measurable that the board really looks at, so the data is very important. And it's also important for the building administrators and how they plan their goals. So I would, you know, anybody that is asked to take surveys, even those questionnaires may be goofy ones. But, you know,
Don't start.
Don't start, okay. No, we want your feedback, so when you're asked about a survey, even if it's kind of a bad day, please take time to fill it out. And, be honest in there, that it's not all rosy. We want to hear what's out there so that we can address it. So I want to thank everybody for the time they put into that.
And then the last piece I'd add is that communication at a glance. So, and certainly this presentation was part of that. But right now, Diana and Lynn are working with the district on creating our newsletter. And so you've got the map, I shared it with you.
Yep.
You can look across the whole year and get a feel for what we're gonna be communicating across the whole district with staff, parents, and the community.
Yeah, it was a very.
Brian, you didn't get a copy of that.
It's actually linked within our document, internal, external, and, the different goals, tactics to be included, and, this is the body of work that we looked at last year and was completed between last year and this year, correct?
Correct. Well, it's been an ongoing, the
It's been an
communication at a
ongoing thing,
glance.
but it's really in the stage of implementation right now. These goals
Yeah.
and targets are being met.
Absolutely. We just met last week to talk further about it, so.
Yeah, so we need to celebrate that. I'll note that as a strength of implementation. Definitely the communication, I think, is improved. We talked pretty frankly about, some of our stakeholders went away with some, they didn't feel good about communications. And, I know there's been great efforts on the part of all administrators and all building people to really to try to communicate well with parents and stakeholders. There are times when we simply have to tell people, hey, we screwed up. It didn't work. It wasn't supposed to happen that way. We can do better. Sometimes telling people that hard truth is the easiest thing to do. And, it's too easy. I do it all the time. I get on my stand and I start telling people about our systems and, all the things that we do great. And we do have great systems and great things in place, but there are times that they do fail. And we need to be cognizant of that. And great work has been done on that. So this policy, we're not, there's so much depth in this policy, Terry, and there's so much work. I can't say enough about it. But as I said last Thursday, I didn't want to do all the talking today on this. Did you come up with some things you wanted to mention? Anybody else? It's going to become an assignment for the next board meeting, guys.
He's turning into screws.
Can I get a plug in for the newsletter?
Yeah.
So this newsletter that Diana, well, actually, we all wrote, is very, very interesting. It's unlike that we've ever done before. So I hope that you enjoy it.
That's all you're gonna say?
That's all I'm gonna say. And it was definitely a group effort.
Is it a pick on Terry newsletter? Or?
Oh, no,
No.
not at all.
Never.
No.
That's what's known as a teaser right there.
All right.
Yeah.
Here.
Huh? You'll write that one?
Any weaknesses noted, Brian?
No, I look at the surveys, though, and I think they're very helpful to us. There's some where we're really making some good strides, and then there's some where we're not. We're just not moving the needle. So, it sounds like building principals are going to be on top of that, though. So,
One of the things
And that was,
in the student data, one of the things that made levy that is that this is, last year was the first year they required, that they asked the whole population to participate. And so that may have skewed the results for some of the student results, but, with a larger population, you can only get more accurate data.
Now, the exciting, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask
Well-
for confirmation by Mr. Black, but, go ahead.
Well, the exciting piece is we really moved the needle on the level of engagement, and we talked a bit about that last week. We really need to focus in on getting at least 100 people taking that Q12 survey. But so we really, and she had sent an email back stating, hey, that's an accomplishment. So that's a good thing, but we don't know the number of disengaged or actively disengaged because we didn't have enough people taking the survey.
We need more people doing this. Yeah.
what I was gonna say, going into what Brian said about, some things are good and some things are bad. And one of the things we discussed Thursday was the process, was the fact that, it's all part of the process. Getting the information is part of the process. The bad information is part of that, along with the good. So you just can't take the bad result and say, well, it's not working, so
Right.
let's change, let's make a change.
Right.
You have to look and say, okay, yeah, because sometimes the numbers don't tell the whole story.
That's a good point. Yeah. Cody, gotta get one out of you.
No, I mean, I agree with Brian's side with the data and the survey results. There's a lot that are just, you know, one or two above, one or two below. It's kind of hard to gauge that, you know, with just the results like you guys are saying. So, I mean, it's hard to go off it, but it's staying consistent. It's not going too far up or too far down. So it's just, you know, like you guys said, moving the needle. So.
And Mr., did you get one? You got one in early, didn't you, Mr.?
Yes.
Yeah, you got one. You got lucky. Usually the first one that says something, they just, I agree with Brian, right? But I thank you guys for taking the time to look at this, and I wanna thank all the people here for all of the work, Diana, Lynn, building administrators, building secretaries, everybody that contributes to this whole process, thank you so much. At this time, I'd call for a motion to approve OE3 treatment of stakeholders as presented.
So moved.
Second.
We have a first and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, gentlemen, very much, and thank everybody for your hard work in putting that together. Consent agenda. Is there anything that anybody would like to mention on here before I call for a motion? Actually, I'd like, Cody, would you please review the donations for me?
Yep. Donations, backpack for kids, $9.50 from Southwood County Empty Bowls, $90 from Bethlehem Lutheran Church, and $100 from United Church of Christ. Thank you to those donors.
Yeah, that backpack for kids is a huge program. I'd like to call for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
We have a first and second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Future agenda items. We have a board workshop September 12th, Thursday. The regular meeting scheduled September 17th. A lot of important other dates coming up. Terry's put them out there in the board update, and we have them on our calendar. Next Monday, we have the morning. What time does that meeting start in the morning?
That's the evening one.
No, we have the morning one.
You mean the kickoff?
Kickoff meeting, is that Tuesday?
That's Tuesday.
Tuesday.
So 8 o'clock breakfast,
Yeah.
8 a.m. breakfast, and then we have a picnic
On
Monday.
Monday night. That's gonna be
It's out in
Powder
Powder
Room,
Room.
and it's a fantastic facility, great place. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody out there. And then Tuesday morning, we have the kickoff,
Correct.
and we're gonna have a wonderful speaker there. It's really one of the, not the only opportunity, but we have all the teachers and administrators in one room, and building secretaries, and
All staff.
all staff. And
And
it's,
our new, our substitute teachers as well.
our
Yeah.
guest teachers as well. That's one important thing to really talk about, is that our guest teachers are included in this process as well. That's an improvement, and I'm glad to see it. But we're gonna have an excellent speaker that day. You're gonna hear a wonderful address by Terry and myself. Right? Right?
Those would be the best.
Those will be the best. Yeah. I'm just gonna say what Terry says, but no, if you guys can be there for next week, that'd be fantastic. It
Well,
means-
Brian's gonna actually be putting on.
Oh, we can't forget the star of the show.
Yeah.
Brian,
What time do you start?
Do you wanna outline a little bit about what you're gonna do?
Yeah, I'm talking for about 4 hours.
Staff will love that.
Yeah, that's great.
There goes the survey results for next year.
They just be happy that you're not talking for 4 hours. We're just gonna be, I'll just be talking about what drugs are going on in the community briefly, and our canine will be there for a quick demo, so.
Had him at the park a while back.
Yeah.
You're not gonna have them chase me around, are you?
It's possible.
Have your battery
I'm
started.
gonna be fully charged. We're looking forward to that, Mr. Mahan. Thank you.
Brian, can we talk about the October meeting?
Yes, the October meeting, we're gonna be, that won't be during our regularly scheduled, third Tuesday of the month, third Tuesday of the month. It's going to be the fourth Tuesday of the month. And this is to ensure that Lynn has time, once we get the data from the state,
Yep.
for us to actually approve a budget that's accurate, not one that we have to go back and fix,
Right,
just as a formality,
yep,
to fix it. A lot of boards just approve it in the regular scheduled meeting and then have to go back and readdress it. Why do twice the work? So,
but I am gonna give an update, in September, just so you have an idea
Yeah.
of where it's looking.
where we are financially as a district, I think it's so important that prior to that October meeting, we have a real firm grasp of where we are, and I think Lynn shares that. So when we talk about the financial updates in the next months, if you guys really gotta make the efforts to be there, might be some special meeting. Ms. Leap here, any observations from your first board meeting? Quiet, Brian Mahan's gonna like that, he likes quiet people.
He wanted to be done 6 minutes ago.
They get longer, just wait.
This was actually, yeah.
Well,
We haven't adjourned yet.
We did a good job. I want to thank everybody for taking their time out to be here on this nice night and all the work that's been done. Let's have a fantastic school year, everybody, teachers, staff.
Yes.
Yes.
Let's start it out with a roar, guys. We're gonna have a good year. And with that, board president calls for a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn. Second.
First and a second, roll call please. No. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, folks.
That folks is
And that was-
that workshop